Greeting divine women and divine men, all welcome here. So grateful to be here with you on the Spring Equinox. So if you follow my podcast, my blogs, my work, we work around the Celtic wheel together. So we just honored Imbolc just 6 weeks ago, one of the points on the Celtic wheel. And that was when the earth was just starting to wake up. There was the budding. And now that warming up, the sun is becoming stronger. We're now coming to that more fire time of year, that yang time of year of the spring equinox. And what does equinox mean? That equality, that equilibrium. So right here on March 21st, and always between the point of the 19th of March to the 22nd, we go throughout this festival and this honoring of Mother Earth for all of us on the Northern Hemisphere, right? For those on the Southern Hemisphere, it's in September, this time of the earth and the land waking up and what that activates within us. So the equilibrium invites us to really step into that within ourselves, within the yin and the yang within us, right? Within the light and the dark, the divine feminine and divine masculine, which we all hold both aspects. And so we'll really be invited to pause, as the solstices invite us to do, and to really sit and welcome in balance, right? So we're all just waking up after this long, dark winter. Back in the autumn equinox, we started to let go and surrender and let parts of ourselves die. And then we moved into Samhain, and that was that real descent into the underworld, the ancestral healing, connecting with Goddess Morgan. Then we went even deeper into the void of the winter solstice, that time of space and dreaming and mystery and planting seeds and reflecting and going deeply, deeply inwards. And then at Imbolc, right, we start to retrieve those gifts in the shadow. Because when we really do in that winter solstice, we stand still, we pause, and we just listen. We just listen to our soul. We listen to our heart. We listen to that inner guidance. We get guided. So when we wake up at this time of the spring equinox, and as we move to Pialtana and the summer solstice, even more action and even more yang energy to bring all that we have gathered from our dream state, from the cosmos, from the stars, from our souls, to bring to fruition in this manifestation of this material world. So I invite you to really look at, how can I bring more balance into my life? So I'm going to invite you to have pen and paper, because in a little bit, I'm going to go over some questions, some beautiful soul inquiry questions for this time of the spring equinox. And I invite you to really go out into nature and spend time and see all the signs of how she's waking up, looking at all the trees and the flowers, how they're starting to blossom. The daffodils are out here, the snowdrops. It's just yellow and white and beautiful everywhere you look. So I'm going to invite you to start seeing that in nature, and then start seeing, do you feel this deep sense of awakening? Because the spring equinox is really a time of rebirth. It's a time of radiance. It's a time of awakening after a long, dark slumber. So I ask you, what seeds have you planted over this dark time of the year? And then when we come into this time of spring equinox, we do want to see if there's anything left from the winter, from the long, dark time of year. And we do want to see if there's anything from the winter, from the long, dark time of year that we do want to let go of. So that's why you hear a lot of time spring cleaning, spring decluttering. And this is a beautiful time to go through your internal space, the thoughts that you think, things that you don't want to take into this really outward aligning time of the year, right? What can you let go of? Maybe go through your cupboards, your closets, and just see, how you can make more space in your life. because this time, spring equinox, is a powerful time of transformation, a powerful time of rebirth. But in order to do that, we have to make space. And if you have taken that time to really listen and to make space and to kind of hibernate over this long, dark winter nights and days, the shorter days, you will have automatically made space. So our ancestors would really be celebrating this time of year because, they didn't have fridges, they didn't have freezers. And so all these months from October onwards, where the earth let itself die and everything went inwards, it was like, where do we get our food from? Like they weren't able to freeze stuff. So it's just whatever they were able to find and to gather and sustain them over the winter. So this time now, as the days start to get longer and the sun starts to get warmer, they were celebrating. They didn't have clocks, they didn't have watches. They just looked up to the sun, the cosmos, the stars. They were guided from their ancestors, just as we are, if we're willing to really listen to that guidance that's all around us, that's beneath us, that's on the ground that we walk, every single step that we take. Our ancestors are behind us and beneath us, and we're guided from above, our higher selves, source energy. So it's really important to take that time to pause every day. So the spring equinox energy lasts for 6 weeks, and then that will take us to Pieltana. And as I said, I do a podcast on every one of the points of the wheel. So please, stay tuned and stay connected with the podcast. So this is the waxing time of the year for the sun, right? It's growing, it's becoming stronger for all of us on the northern hemisphere. Of course, in the southern hemisphere, it's the opposite. It's the waning time of the year. So just like the moon every 28 days, goes through its full waxing, new and waning process, the sun does too, but the sun does it over the course of the year, right? So a ritual I'd like to invite you to do, I invite you to get 2 crystals, because we're honoring that the earth is waking up, right? We're honoring the process of the earth waking up. And so a ritual that I'd like to invite you to do over this time of spring equinox it could be 2 crystals that you find from outside. It can be, crystals that you already had. They can be 2 beautiful big rocks. And that's honoring Mother Earth. We're honoring how we've been held in the womb over the winter solstice. And now it's that time to radiate, to expand, to really step into what you're ready to, your creation, and whatever that looks like, however subtle or small or huge or expansive that is. And sometimes it's the small, subtle energies that are the most powerful. So I invite you to get these 2 crystals, and we're going to hold one of them in our left hand. And the left is really known as the feminine, right? The moon, the darkness, the receiving. And the left is known for the masculine, the sun, the giving energy, right? The outward energy. So we're going to hold a crystal in each of our hands. And we're just going to close our eyes and tune down into the earth beneath us. And connect with source and allow that energy to flow down from above, down through us. And just feel those energies weaving through you and around you, above and below. And then evoking your ancestors. And as I invoke ancestors, I always invoke them to only be here for the highest good from a heavenly realm. So just inviting those in that really feel called to be part of the presence in your life, the support in your life, the ancestral healing, right? And then you can channel that energy on your left and your right rock and bringing in those energies. And then what we want to do is bring the rocks together, because what we really want is this wholeness within us. We want this full integration, this embodiment of our shadow and our light. That's what that whole journey through Samhain and the winter solstice is, just honoring our darkness, honoring our shadow, honoring our light, and not spiritual bypassing. And that's how we get full acceptance of ourselves, right? when we truly do that. We integrate our divine feminine and our divine masculine, or yin or yang, whatever you'd rather call. But the feminine is, the surrender and the leaning in and the listening and the presence and the softness and that receiving energy, right? That the more circular flowing energy, right? And the receptive, when we're going to receive that guidance. It's more that winter solstice energy. We pause. Whereas then we bring in that beautiful, healthy, divine masculine energy. That's the fire, that's the action, that's the passion, that's the structure, that's the movement forward. And that is when we bring those two together in complete harmony within ourselves, that is the full acceptance. That is the unification within us. And we can come from this whole place. And then what happens is we see that in all of our relationships with our lovers, our partners, within all our relationships, there's this beautiful equality, the spring equinox, that equilibrium within ourselves, around us, within our ability to use our intuition, but not just sit in that, but to allow that to move us forward. So this is a beautiful ritual that I invite you to do. And then I invite you to place your crystals onto your altar. So creating a spring equinox altar. And I love to bring the 5 elements in. So there isn't any set rules for an altar. I would place it somewhere. If you can sit east where the sun rises, beautiful. If you can bring the water element, perhaps it's rainwater or snowflakes that you've gathered. Perhaps it's water out of your tap that you've blessed, you've chanted, you've done prayer with. Whether it's water you've gathered from the sea, a river, a stream, a well. So, and I like to bring it in a metal chalice or a metal bowl. So it's honoring the metal element. Whatever flowers are blossoming, for a lot of the time it's daffodils and snowdrops in Ireland, where I am at this time of year. But what is it for you, the land that you're on, that abundance and that bounty and that beauty, right? And so bringing them in, asking the land, these beautiful wildflowers, may I bring them into my altar? So that's the wood element. And then we want to bring fire, right? Because we want to honor the fire, the sun that is rising up within us, that's rising up within the earth, how it's heating up. And of course, when we bring our crystals on, that's the earth element. And then the reason why we create these altars is to allow us to connect on a deeper level, indoor, outdoor, our inner world and our outer world. But also it's that invitation of what we want to bring into this point in the wheel, what we want to bring into the fire time of year, vibrant health and abundance and connection and love and bounty and rebirth. So symbolically bring on anything onto your altar that reflects what the spring equinox energy brings. And I also put my lovely hare, it's like the wild rabbit, the hare, because they're the totem, the animal of the spring equinox. And in my work as a Celtic priestess, but also as a diviner, as a geomancer, our ancestors, to find out what was ahead in store in the season, they would, in the ley lines, the energy lines in the earth, they would have a hare and let it run down to the line of energy. And it would tell a lot about what was going to be happening in the energy of the season. So if it zigzagged, it was telling a lot about the weather patterns, the experiences of how life would be. If it ran straight down, it would be expressing this clearer focus, this more direct point to your journey, this more grace and ease versus a lot of zigzagging. But we know life has a lot of zigzagging. We can choose where we want to go, but it's like that labyrinth. That's what the labyrinth represents. So I'm going to invite you to create an altar. I like to create an altar for I create 8 different altars a year. So I change it every 6 weeks on the points of the year, on the points of the wheel. So for every different spoke. So now, beloveds, I'm going to invite you to get pen and paper, and you can pause the recording as I read these questions, or you can listen to them now, and they will be in the show notes below, the questions, so you can print it out. And, we're so cyclical, like we're not linear, especially as women with our cycles every 28 days. We have our own personal fullness, newness, waxing and waning. And it's really important that we honor and listen to it. And just as beautiful, conscious men do as well, like we all have our own cycles, and to expect ourselves to always be at the same pace and the same everything all month long is not practical at all. So we have to be compassionate. We have to really listen to our physical bodies, listen to our emotional, listen to our thoughts, listen to our spirit, and really honor the fact that we are cyclical, and not expect like productivity and pushing and forcing. And that's where this beautiful integration of our divine feminine, our divine masculine really come in. So you can sit out under a tree and we can go through these questions together, or cozy up in a really comfy area with cushions and pillows and a nice cup of tea. You can sit at your altar. So if you're going to get pen and paper, here's what I'm going to invite. Okay. So I have my questions. So whenever you're ready. So the first question is, what have you been holding close to your heart and dreaming about over winter? What do you want to start this spring? So it's like, what are all those seeds that you've been planting over the winter time? And then how are you going to, and for me, it's never about manifesting or forcing or pushing. It's like just bringing your own energy into alignment and getting really clear and knowing who you are and what you deserve. And that comes from a place of love and self-love and self-worthiness and trusting and knowing that you deserve. But it's kind of knowing what we want and knowing our own truth. So that's why we always want to take this time to reflect. So even at a time of the fire time of year, we're still going to go inwards. We're still going to pause. My practice is every morning I get up at 4 a.m. and I do an hour to an hour, 20 minutes of meditation every day. Before I do anything else, I go and connect with my inner self, my inner guidance, my higher guidance. And then I go, my day unfolds from that place versus waking up and thinking about my to-do list and going onto social media and emails and all these different things. I go inwards and I connect with the land. I connect with spirit. So I invite you to find whatever practices it is for you. So beloved, what needs grounding in your life right now? And is there an area that needs your care and attention? So what needs grounding in your life right now, beloved? In order for you to bring things into fruition, and it's just an intention of joy. I want to be in my joy more, but we have to ground into that. We have to embody, right? We have to know the feeling of joy. We have to know the feeling of gratitude in order for us to kind of be that. We have to sometimes just get out of our own way and allow ourselves. So what is stirring within you and wants to blossom? Do not hold back and allow your pen to move freely without editing as you write. So what's stirring within you and wants to blossom? And that's why I think it's so powerful to look at like the bulbs coming up through the land, because that's where you're at. It's like Mother Nature is constantly guiding us and inviting us. So when you really look at that and take that in and embody that and allow that to be your beingness and your expression, that's when it's so powerful. So what is it that's stirring within you and that wants to blossom? Are there areas of your life where you can invite more balance? And, I get it. It's a daily practice, that balance. And sometimes, we just got to give more time to this and more time to that. And it's just about that inwards practice of, okay, where am I out of balance? Like I've had to spend a lot of time on this recently, and now I need to come back into balance. Like my self-care slipped, or, I haven't had a chance to do that for work, or, I really need to be more present here or there. And so it's just prioritizing, having really healthy boundaries, allowing there's a beautiful balance of structure, divine masculine, and spontaneity, the divine feminine, right? So this is why this full integration is so important. What is trying to surface in your life? And is there something that keeps asking to be born within you? So what is it that wants to be birthed through you? What is it, like that whisper of your soul? Perhaps it's a book that you want to write, a painting that you want to paint, a poem, a song that wants to sing through you, a dance. Perhaps it's a new job, a new relationship, a new home, moving somewhere. Like, what is that? What is that? And just, it's the allowing, but first of all, it's going quiet enough so you can know what that is, beloved. So which projects do you wish to prioritize? So is there something that you need to make a priority in your life right now in order for it to come into this material world? Because we want to plant it in the seeds of the cosmic womb. We want to plant it in the seeds up with the cosmos and the stars within our womb, within our soul, within our hearts. And we can just nurture that and listen to it and expand on that. And then we need to bring that yang energy to birth it into the world. So what actions can you take to ensure the projects most dear to your heart come to fruition? So just that's very similar to the last one. How you stay grounded during the busy growing season with its rampant, wild, and fiery energy. And I love this time, and I love in Bealtaina, it's like really stepping into that wild, sensual, sexual energy, because, you know, you look at the plant life and it's just alive and vibrant. So like we're heading on the wheel to that. But this is the next piece. This is the next piece of awakening within us. How can you recognize the light in every shadow? Right ways to recenter yourself when you're feeling pulled to discouragement. So this is what our spiritual practice is all about, our daily practices. What are your practices for self-nourishment? How do you show up for yourself, first of all? Like, of course, service is this profoundly beautiful way to be in the world, but we have to fill up our own wells first, or else we're no use to anybody else. Anybody else. I know this so well as a mother, and it took me a while to learn that, but just in all other ways, in my work, in my way of being, in my relationships, right? So how do you fill up your own well? How do you nurture yourself? What are your practices? And it's very easy to have practices when you're feeling great and amazing, but it's like when things get hard, you know, when stuff happens, and it can be lots and lots of small things or a big thing or whatever it may be, that's when you more than ever need to bring in your tools and your practices that sustain you and that really fill you up. So my loves, I would love to see photos of your altars. I would love to hear about the ritual with the crystals, with the rocks, how Spring Equinox shows up for you and how you embrace it in your life, what it activates within you. The goddess Grania is the goddess of the Spring Equinox. She is our solar goddess, a fire goddess. And, you know, we have the triple goddess, the maiden, the mother, and the crone. And Grania represents that maiden goddess, right? That youth, that joy, that spontaneity, that carefree energy, right? So we're really being invited at this time of the maiden, right? Spring equinox is the maiden. It's like you see all the plants are just starting to grow and they're budding and blossoming, right? The summer is, you know, as we move into the mother and the queen, and the crone is more the winter time. So how can you embrace your inner youthfulness? How can you embrace your joy and your spontaneity? Just as Grania, I invite you to call upon the solar goddess Grania, the goddess that followed her heart, followed her truth through her story of mythology, as she didn't just marry who she was told to marry. She found aligned with her love and was bold and said, we're doing this against all odds, you know, and then they slept on the rocks. They ran from rock to rock every night because they had to flee, right? And so this is where this ritual comes in with the two rocks. So it really is representing this inward love, this inward integration of our own divine masculine, divine feminine, but also in our relationships too. So I'm going to invite you at this time, spring equinox, of how can you honor that youthfulness within you, perhaps that you've paused or put aside or forgotten about, because we embody all aspects. We are all the maiden, right? We all embody that youthfulness. But we all embody the mother, whether you have children or not. You nurture animals, you nurture the land, whether you work or you teach, you nurture people. That's your mothering energy. Then we've got the queen, the sovereign. You're just at a stage in your life where you just don't care what people think. You are going to show up unapologetically as to who you are. And then there's the crone, that wisdom. It's usually we step into our crone after we finish bleeding, after menopause, and that energy that used to go down out of our bodies it now stays within us and rises up, and our intuition and consciousness expands. So we embody all aspects of the goddess at all times. But the land reminds us of certain times, and these goddesses come into our life to help reactivate that joy or that youthfulness, that playfulness, that spontaneity in our lives, that carefreeness. So, my beloveds, I am wishing you this blessed, sacred time of spring equinox, where you can be in your radiance and that deep blossoming within yourself. I am sending you so much love. As I said, I'd love to see pictures of your altars. I'd love to hear about the soul inquiry if you'd like to share, if you'd like to reach out. And if you enjoyed this podcast, please, if you feel like it'd be useful, I feel like this way of understanding the ancient ways of being and being properly connected to the land, to the earth, embodied in our bodies, integrated, unified, connected with source. Like, who doesn't need that? Who doesn't need that? So please share with beloveds that you feel this would be useful. This is what helps grow the podcast. So thank you for listening. I so appreciate you taking the time to want to listen. I'd love to hear feedback. I'd love a review if you feel called. Sending so much love your way.